We envision the highest points of human achievement as permanent mountains of stone. But in the opening chapters of Isaiah, the idealized, exalted mountain violently collapses into a chaotic heap of dust and ruin. This violent contrast establishes the structural problem at the heart of Isaiah's first 5 chapters. There is an irreconcilable gap between the brutal reality of what the society currently is and the prophetic vision of what it is supposed to be. Chapters 2 and 3 of the text read as a unified, systemic theory of societal collapse. They detail exactly how a civilization hollows itself out. When a society makes humanity the absolute measure of all things, when it pours its ultimate trust into economic wealth, military supremacy, and political leaders, it engineers its own existential meaninglessness. To understand Isaiah's critique of this trajectory, we must first discard our modern Western definitions of 2 biblical concepts, law and judgment. Our modern legalistic frameworks actively obscure the mechanical logic operating underneath the biblical text. The first concept to reevaluate is the Hebrew word Torah. Western readers instinctively translate this as a restrictive set of rules, legislation designed to limit personal freedom. The accurate translation of Torah is instruction. It provides the specific mechanical guidance found in a manufacturer's manual, designed for a singular purpose. This instruction manual is meant to guide a teleological walk. It outlines the specific steps required to move a person or a society from a state of broken disorder toward completion, perfection, and godliness. The nations described in Isaiah do not flock to Mount Zion to be subjugated by arbitrary laws. They seek the structural instructions necessary to survive in a collapsing world. The second concept we have to correct is judgment. When we hear the word, we imagine a courtroom proceeding, complete with a judge in a black robe handing down legal decrees. This text breaks down the Hebrew word for judge, isolating the consonants S, H, and T. The actual mechanical definition of these root letters relates to the restoration of order. The noun derived from them, mishpat, translates directly to judgment, but equally to custom or blueprint. Looking at this diagram, we see the true definition of mishpat. It is the divine architectural blueprint. It is the original, functional order of reality. The biblical judge physically reimposes this structural blueprint onto a disordered world. Their function is architectural, forcing reality back into its intended alignment. Ancient audiences experienced the profound relief of a broken, chaotic system being forced back into functional alignment. God's judgment is the highly anticipated, structurally necessary realignment of reality. Standing in direct opposition to this divine blueprint is the mechanistic, manipulative logic of ancient paganism. This excerpt details the ancient Near Eastern understanding of the cosmos, dividing it into 3 interpenetrating realms: the human, the natural, and the divine. This visualization maps the mechanics of the pagan system. Because the realms overlap, actions initiated in the human realm are meant to directly trigger effects in the natural and divine realms, creating an established link. In this worldview, demonic forces exist as chaotic static. Their primary function is to break these essential links and disrupt the system. Ancient Near Eastern practitioners viewed ritual purity and idols as a form of stabilizing technology. These were desperate attempts to keep the interpenetrating links clean from the static of demonic interference, ensuring the natural cycle of rain and harvest continued. This context reveals the profound irony in Isaiah chapter 2. When the dread of Yahweh appears, the people abandon these meticulously purified idols, throwing their silver and gold to moles and bats, animals defined by their strict ritual uncleanness. Humanity's elaborate systems of control are instantly recognized as futile and discarded the moment the ultimate reality of God's presence enters the frame. Isaiah tracks a specific motif throughout chapter 2 to explain how this failure happens. He focuses on the concept of fullness, how a society over-indexes on human metrics of security. This graph plots the variables the society relies on to fill the void. They accumulate superstitions and magic, they stockpile economic wealth in silver and gold, and they amass military hardware, the horses and chariots that served as the main battle tanks of the ancient world. By maxing out these variables, the society pushes itself to the absolute peak of human pride and self-sufficiency. The text immediately shows the mathematical inversion of this buildup. The soaring line of human exaltation crashes directly into caves, holes in the ground, and utter humiliation. Isaiah establishes a strict causal relationship here. It is precisely the exaltation of these human variables that triggers the existential crash. Relying on human metrics to secure the future is inversely proportional to actual civilizational stability. In Chapter 3, Isaiah shifts to the sociological consequences of this crash, focusing on the categorical failure of human leadership. When human variables fail, the society turns to political figures, expecting mere human leaders to solve deep, structural existential crises. Isaiah illustrates the sheer desperation of this tactic. He describes a scenario where citizens seize a man and demand he become their leader, for no other reason than the fact he happens to own a cloak, forcing him to take charge of a literal heap of ruins. This dense passage catalogs an overwhelming list of finery: bangles, headbands, crescent necklaces, veils, amulets, and sashes. Isaiah uses this literary overkill to highlight a society desperately trying to mask its emptiness. This overwhelming inventory represents the physical volume of items we use to shield ourselves from the reality of our own meaninglessness. The prophetic reversal strips this shield away entirely. The text describes beauty replaced by branding, well-dressed hair replaced by baldness, and the daughters of Zion sitting destitute on the ground. Neither political power nor exhaustive physical adornment can mask the underlying ruin of a society that has exalted itself. Isaiah's ancient critique of human self-exaltation maps directly onto our modern philosophical reality. Isaiah concludes the second chapter with a stark, undeniable premise: humanity possesses but a breath in its nostrils. Building a universe on the image of a fleeting breath creates a foundation of nothingness. If humanity is the ultimate metric, then existence itself becomes inherently void. This ancient civilizational collapse mirrors the modern nausea of existentialism and postmodernity. When we are the ultimate authority, we are left to invent our own meaning, fully aware that the meaning we invent is completely artificial. Making humanity the measure of all things guarantees total philosophical and societal meaninglessness. The only escape from this void is found in the core biblical paradox of exaltation, a concept echoed centuries later in the book of Luke. The negative rule is absolute. Elevating human glory in defiance of divine glory mathematically guarantees humiliation. The higher the self-exaltation, the farther the fall. The positive rule provides the inverse. Adopting a posture of absolute humility is the only mechanism that invites true exaltation. The restorative blueprint of Mishpat provides the only cure for the collapse. The massive gap between what society is and what it will be is only bridged when human self-reliance is entirely dismantled. It is in that empty space that God's structural order can finally rebuild the world.